Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Chris. I am a customer success manager here at Unstack, and I'll be leading today's webinar for strategy. So let's jump into our introduction and chat a bit about what we'll be going over today. But first, I'm going to introduce myself once more. If you've already joined us, feel free to tune out on this small section of the webinar. But my name is Chris Cardone. I lead our customer success team here at Unstack.com. The quick things that I like to go over here is what I like to call our housekeeping tips. That is using the Zoom Q&A feature whenever you have a question. This just indicates that I can expand on something, that there's something that you're so confused on. Since I can't see your faces, it's hard to interpret if I have gone over it where you completely understand or if you're still a bit lost. Make an effort to utilize the polls. We won't announce them because these webinars are recorded and we'll be redistributing them. So please try to just look out for those that pop up on your screen via Zoom. And then try and follow along in the app if you can. Today we're going to talk a lot about strategy, so don't worry about that too much. But just if you can, we're going to go over the Insights panel. So if it helps to familiarize yourself how to click around and navigate through there, feel free to open up the app in a different tab in your browser. Now let's talk about what we'll be seeing today. We're going to look at the Insights tool. This is where we'll talk about analyzing how your site's actually doing. So we'll talk about what those metrics mean, how to interpret those metrics, and realistically, what to do with those metrics. That's always the biggest question that people ask is, okay, I have all of this data in front of me, but what actions is this actually yielding? Then we'll talk about SEO and Unstack, basically how to get it up there, what to worry about, what to actually check in on, and then optimizing your site. This is where we'll talk about how to take your existing site and level up just one smidge more. And then we'll talk about support with Unstack. Since this is the last webinar of the training series, we want to make sure that we leave you guys off with support resources. So if you need any additional help, you have that help for you. So let's chat about Insights, and in a second I'm going to open up the app. But the Insights page goes over how your site is performing at a glance. At a glance is a really big keyword here. The first Insights page, which is called Activity, is really a synthesized piece of information about how your site's doing. You can see the graph, the engagement, uniques, sessions, but realistically, this isn't too enriched data. So I'm going to be going over how we actually find that enriched data. So let's jump in first to actually go over the activity page and talk about what it's showing us. So right here in Insights, you notice that we have our activities page. So first we have page views. Page views is just when a page loads. So this isn't when a person loads, this isn't when one person visits your site, this is just when a page loads. So to put that in context, I could visit your site and look at 5 pages. So that means I'm one unique, but I'm 5 page views. A session is a 4-hour time span when one person visits your site. So the thing to keep in mind here is the uniques will usually be the lowest number, sessions will be the second lowest, and page views will be the highest. So we'll go in that descending order. Here on this graph is where you'll actually be able to, at a glance, just analyze how your site's doing so far. You notice up here there's 90, 30, and 7. Clicking through this will toggle what data we're showing you in this graph. You'll notice this site isn't more than 90 days old, so there isn't data here, but your site should have data. I'm actually going to pull up a different site that's been with us for longer, just due to the fact that I do want to show you how to basically compare your historical data to your current data. So here on this Insights panel, you notice that we have this gray dashed line. So it's kind of showing us how last month was. You notice that it tells me right here, October 11th versus September 10th. And it'll show me the difference here, the drop, and then we can make correlations if we know of anything that happened on those days, or if there was specific content we didn't publish this month that we did publish that month. Down here in engagement is where we can view how specific pages are doing. This is really beneficial to understand what pages of your website you should realistically invest in. So the thing that I always like to say is your homepage will obviously be the one with the most page views. It's where people go when they type in your name, Google your company, or do anything there. So the homepage, it should be the page that you invest in the most, but it's not the most actionable in this data set. What you want to look at is the pages that follow it. These pages are the ones that are highly important, viewed often, and have the highest engagement in some capacities. meaning that these are the pages that whenever you're thinking about doing updates to your site, they should be at the top of your mind. Now, this doesn't mean that they're the most important for SEO, because sometimes the things that are high up here are actually not very high on accruing SEO, but these are a really good start for making sure that they have good graphical design. Additionally, you'll notice over here we have average time on page. We'll talk more about when you can look at conversion rates in different sections of the Insights panel, but this is a pretty good tell of how the page is doing so far. You can actually sort this to look at the ones with the highest average time on page or the lowest. The lowest will usually indicate that people are bouncing quickly from that, but we'll actually show you your bounce rate in a new tab. Then we have test results. In our advanced webinar, we went over A/B testing. A/B testing is a great way to compare two variants and see what is performing best on your website. Usually it's a test of copy or graphics. So when we go into test results, this is where we'll see the results of those A/B tests. You'll notice over here, we have the page that the test was run on, which is hyperlinked in case you want to open that page in the editor. You have the test name that we set up when we were setting up that last A/B test. The status, this can be active or ended. Active meaning it's ongoing and we haven't found enough data that we could autonomously conclude the test with a good statistical confidence. Or ended means that we either autonomously concluded the test because we had significant confidence in the data we had, or you manually ended the test, which can be done on the page editor. You'll have the start and ended date. And then over here is where the statistics for these variance performance come in. So you notice that we have control and variant. So you'll notice that it will show us, let's go to one with some good data. It'll show us how many uniques saw this variant, how many conversions occurred. A conversion is the metric that we set. So when we set ours up, we had it that the conversion was clicking a button. A conversion can also be a form submission, or it can be viewing a page. So there are a lot of different ways to set up a conversion. But nonetheless, this is how many conversions occurred when this variant was displayed. Then it'll show you your conversion rate. And if the winner was autonomously selected by Unstack, it'll put a check next to which one we selected for you. Then over here, it'll show you the confidence percentage or the P value. Next up, we have conversions or conversion paths. Conversion paths is a really great way to see how your site's doing on actually converting visitors. A quick tip that we always like to give is sorting. Sorting is available on almost every single table within Unstack. All you have to do is click it, and then it'll actually sort either ascending or descending. I highly suggest sorting, and then you can actually look either for visits or you can look for highest converting. Highest converting is usually a really good tell for what you can constantly improve on. You'll notice that a large thing that will be very frequent throughout this webinar is how to iterate further and optimize better. So what we're always looking for is those areas of opportunity. And this is what that data will tell us. The data won't necessarily tell us exactly what you have to improve, but it will tell us what pages you can make improvements upon. So for example, here we can look at this product hunt page that we did when we did a product hunt promotion. You'll notice that a piece in this was actually going to the landing page and then signing up. Thankfully, this is 100% conversion rate, which is awesome. But if we saw that when Product Hunt went directly to sign up, we could either make two decisions here. We need to drastically improve this page because this is what we call a drop-off page where the person didn't like the content on it, left, they lost their motivation to sign up. Or we could say we really need to make it so that the Product Hunt page is so compelling it pushes them right to sign up. This could also tell us that we need to put information about landing pages on the Product Hunt page. Those are just a few ways to interpret data from here, but the more important thing to also look at is you'll notice up here there's this filter tab. It says show blank visitors from the last 30 days. If I click this, I'm currently looking at organic, but I can look at paid. The reason I bring this up is if you're running paid advertising, you know that that budget is costly. So we want to make sure that we're constantly iterating on any paid campaigns and improving them to convert the highest it can. You notice over here, it will show me the source. So this is also where you're going to want to be specific on sending UTM source parameters into Unstack through the URL. You notice we can look at our HubSpot emails, this one being for a Satori webinar, and then it can go right to wherever else they went post-conversion. Moving outside of conversion paths, we also have our UTMs. UTMs are the parameters appended to a URL to track how it's doing. So in UTMs, we'll show you how all of those parameters are performing on your site. Those parameters being medium, source, campaign, keyword, and others. This will also, with our lead and revenue attribution, show you how many leads those sources, mediums, or campaigns are bringing in, and how much money it generated if you have the correct integration hooked up, which is Stripe. So when we move into UTMs, you notice that it has a pretty heavy data breakdown, which is awesome. So here we can see medium, and we can see organic type-in, organic social, organic search. We can see how many unique sessions and page views came from each one of these mediums. We can see the average time on page for it, the number of leads attributed to this specific source, the conversion rate here, and the bounce rate. We talked about on the conversion paths about not really worrying about bounce rate because it's broken down here. This is a really great way to see how different sources are bouncing. Once more, like we saw in conversion paths, you can filter to paid channel or organic. We'll keep on organic for a second. But this is a great way for reinvestment. So this isn't necessarily within Unstack that you can do this. This is actually outside, but say you were running Google Ads. You can track their performance actually under Pay Channel. You can track their performance and be able to see which advertisings you're running have the highest bounce rate and then cut down budget on those. So not only is the Insights panel beneficial for making optimizations within Unstack, it's also successful for making optimizations on the marketing activities you're doing outside of the platform too. Let's go over this breakdown back in organic. So we have once more uniques, which is when a unique person or IP address lands on your website. This should be the lowest number out of these three. You have sessions. This is a 4-hour time span when somebody visits your website. So just like we said under activity, a unique can have multiple sessions. And just like for sessions, a unique can have multiple and most commonly a lot more page views than they have sessions. Then leads is lead attribution. So this will show you specifically how many people came from that UTM source, conversions, bounce rate, revenue, and revenue per click. Revenue per click, when set up correctly, will actually show you how much revenue is coming in divided by how many uniques came in from that one source. So it'll show you how much you should actually invest in clicks. We'll filter over to Paid Channel to see this live in action. And you'll notice if, say, this caused $1,000 of revenue and we had 55 uniques, the revenue per click would be that 1,000 divided by 55 to tell you how much you should actually be channeling into that paid advertisement. Now we have our newest tool, which is Google Search Console. This is a tool that helps out with keyword targeting, making sure your pages are ranking, what pages to optimize on, and more. Let's take a look here with Unstack as the example data. Up here are our top keywords. Below is the top content. So now when we look at this, we can see what keywords we're actually ranking for. A really big suggestion we always give, and one that we actually implement here, is to always look at page 2 rather than page 1. Page 1 is really good, especially if you already have terms like we have Best SaaS website. But for most people, page 1 will usually be filled with just your company name with a few words after it. You notice that like Unstack site, Unstack, Unstack website, Unstack.com, Unstack pricing, a lot of just Unstack in here. And it's really great that we rank for that. I would hope we do. But what we want to look for is keywords that aren't our company name that we're actually ranking for so that we can optimize upon those. You'll notice that there's also breakdowns of data, which I'll go over before we advance to the next page. We have the query. The query is what was searched in Google. Clicks is how many times we clicked that. Impressions is how many times that keyword was seen. Well, how many times your web page was seen when that keyword was searched. The click-through rate is the percentage of people who saw it and clicked it. And then the position is where it appeared on Google. This isn't always a whole integer. It's usually the average position that it ranked on, because you do have to remember Google has a lot of other confounding variables that we can't break down here, like geography, language, and many other things it takes into account. So you're not always going to see a clean number here. Then if we advance to page 2, this is where you can see a lot more of what we can actually rank for, what we can improve upon. Maybe we have to do some re-advertising on misspellings of our company name and different pieces like that. This is a really great piece of content and piece of data to show you precisely what keywords you're already ranking for, where to optimize, and where you can do even more. And you can always filter this to see what your best position is. Like ours is Unstack.com. And marketing strategy. Top content goes over what content is being viewed the most from Google Search Console. So we can see how many impressions our homepage is getting. Once more, your homepage is something that should be optimized to the best of your ability. It's realistically the preceding pages that we want to focus on and make sure that those are also at the top of your list for optimization. You'll see that we can view one of our blogs is having a lot of clicks. It has a major number of impressions. The click-through rate is a little dismal, and the position is pretty good in relativity. So a great thing to also do here is sort this. And one tip that we like to put out is if there's a blog that's doing really well on a topic you're going to do a webinar on. So say we're doing the strategy webinar next week, and we had a blog all on Google Search Console strategy, you could always utilize that to actually put advertisement for different marketing activities you're doing in relativity to that blog. Awesome. So now that we've gone over the interpretations of the data in Unstack, we'll actually talk about strategy and kind of get away from just how to view the data and how to actually take that data into action. So let's talk about SEO within Unstack and what you can control and what you should be focused on controlling. So the three big things here are meta keywords, meta description, and meta page title. The page title is an HTML element that specifies the title of the page. Title tags are displayed on search engine results. This is a definition from Moz.com. Moz is a really great resource if you want to learn more and more about SEO. But the page title should be short, descriptive of what the page is. And if this page should be ranking for a specific keyword, that should naturally be within it. So this is something that I like to cover is the page title is different from blog title. Page title is more of a prescriptive type of like technical terminology. So that means if your page is about pricing, you're not going to call it the best SaaS pricing ever. That's just not relevant. Rather, we call it the pricing for the modern inbound marketing platform, as we do here at Unstack. Whereas a blog title is a little bit more value driven. So you can notice that from our Unstack blogs of how we title them of the 5 best content books that you should be reading and different things like that. But your page title should be descriptive, short, and once more, if a keyword can naturally be in there that you're targeting, put it in there. But avoid keyword stuffing, as it's not a great practice. If you're curious of what keyword stuffing is, that's basically just pushing keywords that don't belong there in there. So just like I went over with that description of a weird pricing page title, you don't want to do things like that, where you're shoving, like if we said the best pricing page for SaaS, B2B website marketing, all of that. A lot of those keywords don't naturally belong there. Also, remember, if you search anything on Google, the title that you're clicking is the page title. So you also want to make sure that this is humanly readable and interpretable. So we really want to avoid using anything weird because realistically, when people are Googling it and they find it on Google, they actually might not click it because it might look too clickbaity. Moving forward, we have blog title, which we just talked about. This should be more value focused. So what the reader will actually get out of this blog. This is really helpful for showcasing exactly what they're going to get from this. A really great example, and Kaylee from our team leads this and is actually the basically source of this, most of those webinars, is how she titles all of our blogs. You're going to notice it's very value focused. But another thing we still avoid here is utilizing any keywords that don't naturally belong within these blogs. So like 5 CMS features every small business needs for online marketing success. That's a very natural sentence, but we could have made it very clickbaity of the best list of content marketing system features every small business in Boston needs for their marketing success strategy. So you'll notice that there are 2 big differences there. Of one is just value focused. It's very clean, crisp, easy to read. And then others that a lot of people will run into is these keyword stuffed titles that nobody really comprehends. Then we have SEO keywords. SEO keywords is just a meta tag to provide information about the web page in the HTML of the document being the actual web page. This information is called metadata. This description is once more from a mixture of WordStream and Moz.com. Keywords as a tag still matter. However, they're not the end all be all. Keywords are somewhat phased out from Google. Google still ranks them, but it doesn't rank them as highly as your meta page title or your meta description. So adding them is good practice for optimizing around those keywords and seeing which ones you're striving to rank on. Keywords as a strategy is an important practice of locating keyword opportunities within your target market. So there's a lot to break down here, and I'll leave this slide up in case you guys want to read it over. But basically, there are two different types of keywords that we're talking about here. We're talking about your meta keywords and just keyword strategy. So meta keywords are basically telling Google what keywords this page has on it. Those keywords should naturally have appeared within that page. And then a keyword strategy is locating the keywords you want to rank for and then writing content around that. So meta keywords doesn't matter at the highest because Google is once more phasing it out in some capacities. However, keyword strategy is extremely important and probably one of the best practices you can do for ranking on Google. Moving forward, we have SEO description. So this is your meta description. This is a snippet of text that Google will show when something's searched and when they're displaying that as a result. The description should be about 150 characters and it should summarize the content in the page. Once more, this should be just descriptive. It shouldn't be keyword stuffed and it should be human readable. If you're targeting a specific keyword, make sure to include these in your meta description. Also be sure that each page has its own unique meta description. So you don't want to copy and paste these or reuse these across your website. But once more, make sure it's descriptive and human readable as this will appear when it's Googled. So you'll notice right here, we said this is the snippet of text that will show on Google. So it will show under the linked page to actually give the viewer a quick description of what that page is going over. So make sure it's readable, gives a very descriptive text of what that page is all about. And if there's any quick information you want to throw in there, feel free to, but make sure that it's under 175 characters at most. 150 characters is highly suggested. Let's talk now about optimizing your website. So this is optimizing the actual content on the website and not necessarily just auditing the SEO of it. First, we have image optimization. There are two different ways to do image optimization. First of those is leveraging Unstack's image optimization setting within the actual platform so that we don't slow down your page speed. So making sure that that's activated for all of your images. It's relatively extremely easy to keep active, and we actually turn it on by default. So if I click on this image right here, you notice it'll expand my media library. And under image optimization settings, I like to have resize and next gen optimization. This will automatically only render the image size that is required for that page. So if you're viewing it on mobile and you only need the image to be 300 pixels because the mobile screen size is small, we'll only render it at 300 pixels and not the full, maybe, I don't know, 1200 pixel image. This speeds up the page and optimizes in a manner specific to the actual device's screen size. So things don't look blurry, they don't look grainy, they don't look low quality. They look high res on that device, but they are only high res for that device's screen size. Then next we'll talk about using alt text. Let's talk about the SEO benefits, and let's also just talk about your responsibility to the viewers. So alt text as an SEO benefit gives a short description of what the image on that page is all about. Remember that Google actually doesn't index the images on a page. It doesn't use its AI just yet to look at what's in that image and analyze it. So the alt text tells Google, hey, here's what this image is, so that can actually rank in some capacity. However, alt text is also utilized when somebody is visually impaired and using a screen reader. So remember that alt text should be descriptive of the image, and it's not something really keyword stuff, as some people do rely on it for actual information when they're reading over your blog post or just viewing your website. The way to set alt text within Unstack is once more just clicking the image and typing in the alt text right here. It should be a short descriptive snippet only as long as it needs to be. Only as long as it needs to be, meaning it shouldn't be about 6 paragraphs about an image. It should just be specifically what this image is in a short descriptive description. Moving forward, we have funnel optimization. This is actually leveraging a piece of technology we already went over, which was conversion paths. Funnel optimization is the task of looking at your conversion paths and finding areas of improvement. We went over how to do that when we first looked at the conversion paths of looking for places of drop-off or looking for how you could have expedited the funnel. Although people clicking around on your website is never a bad thing because they're viewing more and more content, we obviously want to expedite the sign-up process. So one example that we showcased here is having the product hunt page already incorporate landing page information so that we could have gotten these people to go direct to sign up. So there was no risk of them falling off on this page. Those are tiny funnel optimizations that actually help a lot. Major websites like comp.io and Asia Times Financial look at these all the time to actually reference how they can take this and turn it into just a 2-step funnel rather than reaching 6-step or beyond. With that as a recap, we'll also open this to questions since we went pretty quickly over SEO and all of the benefits. There's a lot to do with it in Unstack and a lot of powerful information here. Additionally, one thing that I like to call out that we called out in the last webinar when we talked about integrations is the fact that we provide tracking and analytic opportunities. So there's opportunities to, within 2 clicks, embed analytical services like Google Analytics, Hotjar, Google Tag Manager, Rewardful, FreshPaint, Google Search Console, and many others. So if you need to analyze data in different capacities, feel free to utilize those integrations too. But at the end of the day, to look forward for what's coming soon in Unstack, if you joined us this whole week, thank you for joining us. And also this will be a quick reiteration of what you've already heard, but Unstack Payments and Memberships has never been closer. We're coming up on our alpha release of this to those customers who expressed interest earlier this month. This will enable you to create gated content, have subscription plans, and actually turn content into white papers that are only accessible by those who've signed up for your website. Additionally, this is the last webinar of the series. If you need any additionals, feel free to email us for all of the recordings of the series if you want to watch again at your own pace. But if you need any help outside of that, feel free to email help@unstacked.com. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll now open for the last 4 minutes of this webinar for any questions that you might have.